Yeah, good morning. Yeah, good afternoon. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. Hi, hi, hi. Nice to see you there. Yeah, yeah. Same feelings here. Yeah, yeah. Yes, Pooja. How are you? Good. Yeah. So today I'm going to talk about how to create or set up your boundaries. So setting up boundaries is going to be a very important part of our life. Why it is essential? It is because as we women, we grow in our professional careers, or when we deal with some changes in our day-to-day routine, or we want to set up new goals for our personal lives, it is very much important that we should have a clear cut idea about how to set up our boundaries. So today I'm going to cover some of these things. These things are like uh, when you really talk about this kind of boundaries, then one more important part to this boundaries is also about how you want to set up those things, right? Now, why there is a need to set up the boundaries? So there is a need to set up the boundaries. It is because if you are on a path of self empowerment, do you know that you have to set some boundaries? So, but how? You know, because defining the rules of your relationships can liberate you from people pleasing and overcommitting. So, knowing how to set your boundaries is one of the most essential, but yet it is an overlooked social skills. So, when I say that, boundaries are clearly rooted in clear communication. So, there is a quote, from Brain Brown. She says, "Clear is kind, whereas unclear is unkind." So, there is a deep meaning to it because the more precisely and clearly you can express your boundaries, the more likely that your boundaries will be respected everywhere, in your day-to-day life, in your professional life, in your career, in your relationships, or even when you are dealing with your team members or your subordinates or your line managers or your bosses at workplace, obviously. So while you may need to repeat yourself this set of boundaries a few times, but you don't have to feel the need to apologize or try to justify your boundaries. So this is also very essential part of, you know, when you why you want to have those boundaries. So like an invisible fence around the perimeter of a yard, you these boundaries, they help us establish where your space or our space ends and someone else's begins. So, if a dog can recognize and respect that perimeter, I think then anyone in our life or anyone in, for that matter, can really, do this. Having said this, now I want to take you to some kind of boundaries which are healthy boundaries, and some of them are unhealthy boundaries. So, how you define your healthy boundaries? So, today I will guide you very precisely how to set the boundaries that protect your mental, your physical, your emotional well being, and from fostering the healthy relationships at work, at home, and in your social circles. Okay, so what are healthy boundaries? Okay, so someone is writing here, healthy boundaries are the limits you place around your time. Healthy boundaries are the limits you place around your emotions. Absolutely, these are phenomenal, right? So, healthy boundaries are the limits that you can place around, as somebody said rightly, around your time, your emotions, your body, your mental health, and to stay resilient. because that is also essential when you have this mental health boundary set up to stay resilient. It is very fruitful. Now some boundaries are placed around you know what kind of person you are. So these empowering borders, they can protect you from being used, being drained, or manipulated by others, right? Yes. So Krishna is saying yes. Yeah. So, how to target the right boundaries? So you can set your boundaries around emotional energy, time, personal space, sexuality, morals and ethics, material possessions, finances, social media, anything. So, when it comes to the real life, then healthy boundaries, they really lead to the healthy mindsets. This is a very important statement which I'm making today, because healthy boundaries can only lead to healthy mindsets. Now, these boundaries you can set up in your personal life with your family, like parents, siblings, with your own spouse, life partner, with your friends, maybe the close friends, the distant friends, or also you can set these healthy boundaries in your romantic relationships with your co-workers at your place, or any strangers which you come across. So these are they are not the blatantly clear as a fence, or a wall, or not a no trespassing kind of sign. Healthy boundaries actually communicate to others what you will and you will not tolerate. A very important statement, what you will tolerate and what you will not tolerate. So, in short, if you see, the boundaries, they empower you to take the charge of your life. This is a very important thing, because then you can define, you can take charge of your life. You can decide what boundaries are good for me, what boundaries are not good for me, and accordingly you take charge of your entire life. So somebody was asking me one day that why you need boundaries. So for me, I think personal boundaries are at the root of a fulfilled balanced life. If you see any successful person, you can see that they have set certain kind of boundaries, because then only they can lead a fulfilled and balanced and successful life. So without them, people can actually quickly, lose themselves in their work, their relationships, their family obligations, or service to others. They can even wind up being exploited. They can even, you know ex- wind up that being exploited, or taken advantage of the people or by the people who do not respect them. So this is very essential for women especially, because then you when you set such kind of boundaries, then people may not take advantage of you, even in your personal life or professional life, because some people, they do not respect you for what you are. They don't know who you are, and they don't know how to respect you. From that perspective, setting up certain boundaries, what you will tolerate and what you will not tolerate, that can really define, how people can treat you. Now, these borders, they help define what are we willing to say yes to, and what we are decided to say to something no. Okay, and they give you a sense of, agency or sovereignty over your decisions. Right? Am I right? Yes. Yes. Shweta is saying right. So, like an internal compass, these boundaries can all start with a gut feeling. It's a gut feeling, right? That tells you that when you have time and energy to devote to something versus when you need to say no. Okay. And good boundaries, they always free you to live life on your terms, right? Yes. So Samiksha is also saying yes to it, and yes, absolutely, Samiksha. Because good boundaries, they make you free. You get freedom, and you can live life on your own terms. Now, healthy boundaries and unhealthy boundaries. Now, how can we define this? People with solid boundaries, they tend to have lower levels of stress in their life, and they have higher self-esteem. It is because they prioritize their well-being, isn't it? So when you actually have these boundaries, let's say, I'm just giving you an example. Like suppose if I know I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, And if I define that, okay, for that I will go to sleep at least by 11 o'clock, because then when you get up in the morning you are going to be, and on time, you are going to be less stressful. You can do your chores, everyday chores, before going to your office or to workplace in a better way. So obviously there is a confidence which gets inside you, so that okay, now you have planned your work very nicely for the first from the morning, and you are going to be the most fruitful for the rest of the day. So this actually sets us to prioritize our well-being. Now, on the other hand, people who don't have these kind of boundaries may advertently they let others take advantage of them. So, like I can give one example of a peer, women who are having small kids, and then they know, okay, they haven't set those boundaries for even for their children, with respect to their homework or something. They then children, they start taking advantage of situations. So you have to say very clearly, okay, if you want your child to do the homework, say by 5 o'clock, and you reach home at 7 o'clock, you know that okay, that boundary is set, and your child has performed well, and she or he has done his homework. So if you don't set that, then obviously the child will always come and say, "Mom, I was busy with something, or I slept, or I was busy playing with the video game or something of that sort." So when you don't have set boundaries, then obviously others will take advantage of them. Now these people who are not having the set boundaries, they may lack self-confidence, they may lack a sense of purpose, or they may not be very clear, they will not have a clear identity to guide them through life. So there is a counselor with the name Dr. Dana Nelson. She writes that, she has written somewhere in a book that it says that in work on in our personal relationships, poor boundaries will always lead to resentment, anger, and burnout. So, how many of you are agreeing to this? Yes, 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 yes. So there are so many yes, 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 yes coming from all of you, and I think the audience is clever enough to understand, what I'm trying to say. So if they are not set, poor boundaries, then that will always lead to some kind of anger inside, some kind of burnt out feeling. So people without boundaries, and there is one more point, that is people without boundaries can be easily persuaded into things that they don't want to actually do. Sometimes you if you haven't set any boundary for your mother-in-law, or your, for that matter, your siblings, and they get into they ask you to do the things which you really don't want to do, because you know that your priority is something else. So in that case, because sometimes we tend to have this tendency, women probably, we don't have the boundaries, and when somebody wants to do something for us, then we do it out of guilt, or we do it out of obligation, and we don't have actually that self love factor coming in. Okay, I have to go for, so sometimes we have to go for a class, but somebody sometimes says, okay, can you please do this for me, and we just don't have this set boundary, and we say, okay, we end up doing that kind of work for them. So this comes out of obligation, or this comes out of kind of a lack of self care, that you don't give importance to your priorities. Now, giving some examples, of the healthy boundaries and unhealthy boundaries, I just want to say few things, like how can you identify that somebody has set the healthy boundaries, or somebody has not set, or unhealthy boundaries for that matter. So, can I take you through that? Yeah. So protect yourself from getting or people taking advantage of. So this is a kind of a sign of a healthy boundary, whereas vulnerable to being used or taken advantage of, that is unhealthy. Somebody is when you know that you have your time, you own your time, that feeling is there, that's a healthy boundary. But somebody who says that they are overcommitted to something for others, and they leave very little time for themselves, then that is a kind of unhealthy boundary. Now some people, they have high self-esteem as well as self-respect, whereas you find so many people or women, they have very lower self-esteem, and they are critical inside, that because their inner dialogue always is very negative and critical to them. So these are certain kind of unhealthy boundaries. Now if you see the kind of healthy boundaries, people with healthy boundaries, they prioritize time for themselves. Whereas the others who have their unhealthy boundaries, they give a lot of their time to other people. So if you see only some of them, they take responsibilities which they can handle, and they don't overcommit. So these people have set some healthy boundaries. Whereas there are some who take additional things, and then they at the end of the day they feel exhausted or they feel burnout, and then they are overwhelmed with so many commitments and responsibilities which they themselves know that they cannot fulfill. So these are examples of unhealthy boundaries. Now somebody, yeah, right. So Nisha is saying right, yeah. So the people with the healthy boundaries, they have strong sense of identity, yeah. And they don't feel bad about certain things, whereas some people, they will keep on changing their priorities with the different people, and they will also feel very guilty inside if the boundaries are not met, I mean some expectations are not met. So these are the examples of some of the unhealthy boundaries. Now, there are five effective ways to set healthy boundaries. So, what are those, uh, ways? So, setting boundaries sometimes comes down to communication. So, communicating your needs and your desires is the most vital step towards defining your limitations and living a more liberated existence. How many of you agree to this? Yes, yes. I see a lot of yes here. Yes, 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 Nimisha. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, Shraddha. Yes, or yes. All right, all right. Yeah. So I think everyone is getting here that you have to visualize and name your limits, because that is the most important part of defining your boundaries, and you have to make them very concrete. You know what you will do or what you will not do. So you have to ask yourself certain questions, that what is causing me unnecessary stress or discomfort, okay, before you set up any kind of concrete boundary. What do you look forward to each day versus what is that which dreads you, and who or what gives me energy, a positive energy. What areas of my life I feel exhausted by. Now, what makes me feel safe, supported, valued? So you ask yourself all these things, and you will come to a certain conclusion, because boundaries are often confusing and they are abstract because they feel invisible in our daily lives, right? So you have to ask yourself the relevant questions before you make or decide that this is the concrete boundary, healthy boundary which I want to set for myself. Okay. So now, coming to the you can make one experiment wherein you draw a large circle on a blank. Take a paper, and those who are having the pen and pad in there with them, they can draw a large circle on a blank piece of paper. Okay, and inside the circle, write everything that makes you feel safe and stress free. Look, for example, you can write a daily routine. You can write the words of affirmation from your partner, the positive words, your hugs from your loved ones, or autonomy over your body, saying no to the energy vampires, freedom to decide how you want to spend your free time. So, clear communication from your loved ones, or leaving work stress in the office. So, you put all those things inside the circle where these things which make you feel safe and stress free. Now, on the outside of the circle, this circle, you can draw anything that causes you sorry, discomfort or pain or kind of resentment, annoyance, or some emotional exhaustion. So these are the people or the situations which are pushing the limits of your boundaries, in short. Okay. So I can give some examples for working after hours on projects instead of prioritizing your self care. I mean, what is the self care, what from where you will get kind of time for your exercise or spending time with your kid. That's a quality time. So okay, if you are not getting that time, that means you are working after hours on projects, and that becomes a thing which is out of your circle, which pushes your boundaries. Now, your mom telling you what to do with your life, no worrying about what certain people will think about you, or your cousin asking, consistently about or to borrow the money from you, or your roommate eating your food from the fridge. Yeah, strange people at the bar or anywhere at social places touching you without asking. I'm just giving some examples. Or your co-worker consistently dumping her relationships problems during lunch on you. So these are some of the people who are, or the situations which are out of that circle, inner circle. So this circle represents a visible manifestation of your limits. So it's time to take anything outside the circle and determine how you can define a boundary that will prevent or eliminate those issues in the future. Right? Yeah, so Manisha is saying yes to it. Dipali is saying yes to it. Yes, and I see Prajakta saying same thing. Right? So for that, you have to openly communicate your boundaries. One of the biggest mistakes which people make, and that I've seen multiple times in setting, they set the boundaries in their mind, but they do not openly share them with the people who are the integral part of their lives, or the people who really matter to them, or people who don't really even matter to them. Okay, so sometimes people assume that you should know their boundaries, but if they did not clearly communicate where they have drawn the line, how will you know when you have overstepped it? So this can seem very daunting and scary, but it can feel like a significant relief once you get it out of the way. Agreed? So yes, yes. So thank you. Yeah, thank you, thank you, Seema, for that feedback. So yes, yes, they are daunting and scary sometimes. Yeah, true, true. So as a social psychological researcher, this Brain Brown, she said that clear is kind and unclear is unkind. So I'm again taking you back to this, because once you know your boundaries, you have to communicate to them. Take a deep breath, gather your resolve, and assertively express your needs in a kind and direct way to the people with whom you want to set up certain kind of boundaries. You need not be very harsh. You need not be very, very blunt. And but at the same time, you can say it very clearly, very openly. What are your boundaries? Now, fortunately, once someone is aware of your boundaries, these people will respect them. Those who are very important in your life, they will always respect them, and they will apologize if they accidentally cross that line. Yes, yes. So I think, I see a lot of comments there in the inbox. Samir saying the same thing, and Risha saying the same thing. Yeah, Shiva saying the same thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you can quickly find yourself crossing into more dangerous territory of getting burnout, taken advantage of, or even neglecting your own needs. You know? So, without a clear communication, these things can happen. So, then the lines become very blurred. So, please see to it that when you define your boundaries, you clearly communicate to your loved ones and close ones. Now, the more precise and direct you can communicate your boundaries, the easier it will be to uphold them. How many of you agree to this? I'm sorry. Boundaries are like the rules of a relationship. So when they are displayed for all parties involved, it is much easier to respect them. I'm so sorry. I'm having a little bad cough here. But yeah, so how to clearly communicate your boundaries? There are boundaries for time, energy, emotional dumping, personal space boundaries, conversational boundaries, comment, mental boundaries, material boundaries, social media boundaries. So set your boundaries very clearly. For example, I can give one example for a personal space boundary. So suppose if you are uncomfortable sometimes, you know, you can always say it makes me very uncomfortable when you say something. and if you can't respect my space, I will have to leave from here. So this is a kind of giving a clearly, you know, clear boundary, and you're communicating in a very clear way. Now, material bound. Now somebody is asking you for favors again and again, borrowing something from you, money or anything, your resources. So you have to say very clearly, please ask me before borrowing my anything, money or anything. Or I would appreciate it if you don't, touch them without letting me know. See, these are the ways to clearly communicating the boundaries. Now, sometimes people on the social media, they also set some boundary that you can say that, I don't feel that I'm comfortable that you posting that for me on Instagram. So these are the clear cut boundary, because you know what you want to be saying when you what you want to put on social media. So, having said that, now reiterate and uphold your boundaries is also very essential, because, like the invisible perimeter fence around a yard, it protects a dog from running into the street, right? So, boundaries also protect you from overextending your mental and emotional well being. No, but the dog has to be trained, right? Not to cross that line. So it's the same thing. So they have to understand now these dogs where their yard begins and where it ends. It takes time. It takes repetition. It needs patience. Especially those who have pets at their home, they can relate to this. So the same is true for human boundaries. So not everyone will understand or respect your boundaries. So you need to keep on repeating sometimes, and that also very patiently. So please give that time. It is essential to stand firm in your decision while kindly reminding these people about your boundaries. No, a dog will get, again taking the example of the dog, will get confused if the yard ends at the bushes one day but extends to the sidewalk the next. If someone doesn't initially respect your boundary, then remind them, but stay consistent with your original decision. So this is a very important thing. Now, for that, I can give one, small pro tip. Avoid shifting your boundaries for somebody else's comfort. Simple thing. If you said I don't feel comfortable with you contacting me about work after hours, stick to it. Now you don't say sometimes, sometimes it is okay for you to text me late at night. That is what you have to reiterate. You have to stick to your stand, so people understand, and they don't even feel, why it may be a little bit awkward or uncomfortable initially, but a person who truly wants to be in your life will respect that decision. Now, there are, areas wherein we fail to say no, especially women. We being women, we fail to say no to certain things, like, suppose if you don't want to go anywhere, but for the sake of your husband or for the sake of your kids, you just feel like, okay, going there. Sometimes you don't like certain people in your life, but because they are close distant relatives, but you just have to be with them. And in those cases, you also have to learn and not to get scared or afraid to say no. Have you ever met someone who seemed to say yes to everything, but people are afraid to say no, often end up with an overflowing plate of duties and responsibilities? How many of you agree? Yeah, so Sharmishta is saying yes, and Nikita is saying yes, and yeah, yes, and Indu is saying yes to it. Yes. So you are afraid, and then you have this over plate which is full of duties and responsibilities that doesn't seem to be, going down. So they tend to forgo their self-care, and as they frenetically they try to meet those demands of their close ones and the people, and they forget to say, no to everything. So no is a very powerful word. It sounds like very strikingly similar to dozens of languages and can be recognized by simple gesture on your face. Like the moment you say no, that no can create a lot of things in your life, right? So some people may take you negatively, some people may say, yeah, she's arrogant, some people may say that, okay, she doesn't value the importance of relationships, she doesn't understand, she is very rude, she's very arrogant. So all these things will come, okay. But you don't have to feel guilty about those things. You don't have to get scared to say no, because it's kind of, it's no is saying, it's kind of draw a line in the sand. Some people are like that. So it is actually the expression of a courage. It is actually the expression of self love. And it is also, how you take your decisions daily. That is what, when you say no to certain thing, that is a clear cut demarcation of what you can tolerate and what you cannot tolerate. So remember that every yes or no shapes your reality. So you have the power to choose how you will spend your time and energy. If something doesn't feel right in your gut, you probably should not do it. Right? So yes. So many of you are saying yes to this, and so many yeah, she's saying okay, sometimes what to do. Like you have to say yes. So the word no is essential for healthy boundaries. Understand this, Indu. It is very much essential, because you should know what is good for you and what is not good for you, what gives you positive energy and what gives you negative energy. So the action tip for this, saying no doesn't have to be rude, but it also doesn't require an apology or a feeling of explanation or a guilt. Notice where in your life you say, I'm sorry, I can't, or maybe let me get back to you, when you just mean no. So pay attention to how you can shift this simple conversation to more clearly drawing a boundary instead of leaving another person waiting for a clear answer. So say, if you say no, you can also say it with a firm thing, with a polite expression, but the message will be very clear, because no is a very negative word and people do understand it when you say no. So the clarity of your communication will ultimately benefit all the parties which are involved. Now, I will touch upon certain thing, that is, take time for yourself. Now, this world is very moving very fast, and you know that this generation is very fast, and self care sometimes can feel very selfish and even frivolous to many. But the science of self care is very clear. Taking alone time for yourself is linked to more confidence, greater creativity, more emotional intelligence, and more emotional stability in challenging situations. Agreed? Yes, so I see the this me. Everyone is saying yes, 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 and everybody agrees to it, that they are very confident when they take out time for themselves. They feel their creativity increases when they take time, sometimes some time alone. When they know that there is some more intelligence or more clear cut decisions coming out when you take alone time and you go into your shell, and so action tip, this can help prevent your burnout also. That is also one of the advantage when you take time for yourself. Now, action tip, which I want to give to a few of my participants who are asking me, how we can do this. For the next month, you set aside a solid 2 hour block. You block your time in your calendar each week. Each week I'm saying 2 hours. That is your me time. Let your close family friends and your family members and know that you won't be available during this time. So whether it is like you're cooking a healthy meal for yourself, going outside, taking the rest of the day, or hitting the yoga studio or whatever, or lounging on the beach with a good book in your hand, or creating time for yourself. So this is very crucial for healthier boundaries. Yes, yes. I take out time. I go to gym. Yes, and somebody has written, okay, I love reading my favorite book of Linda Goodwin. Oh wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. So this is like this is like you have to take time for yourself. It's understood clearly. So, but uh, what does self care have to do with this boundary? Like, somebody is writing here, there is a question from Rima saying, what is it? So, solitude all allows you to reflect on your life and on your values. How many of you agree to this? Yes, yes, yes. So the time you set aside for yourself, for self care, it can bring in that clear clarity in your relationships with other people, and ultimately helping you define your boundaries. So take out that time, spend some time with yourself, and then you get more clarity about your relationships with other people and how you want to define your boundaries. To many this may seem selfish. Some people, I have this experience from my past, that I was also a little bit uh, you know uh, thinking that am I selfish, that I'm creating my own boundaries. But no, modern society's tendency towards self-sacrifice and workaholism has led a large majority of people to dismiss their boundaries or sacrifice their well-being to please other people. And I think many will agree to this, because those who are into uh, careers, good flourishing career, they will understand that even if you start working on these boundaries, there is some inner voice which comes and tells you, why are you doing this? Why are you not being selfish? And then there is a feeling of guilt coming in, that, oh, I'm not giving time for myself because I have kids around. I'm not talking to my spouse on a long weekend, not going out with him. But where is the time when you want to define the time you want to spend on yourself? You suddenly start feeling that, that guilt feeling, that am I selfish? So you tend to, especially women, we tend to dismiss the idea of having the boundaries for ourselves. And this can often have the opposite effect than you know what we would like to have. Now, self-care and healthy boundaries, they are not selfish. Actually, they are a form of self-love that leads to deeper relationships, meaningful relationships with others, and more fulfilling experiences. Please understand this, because many women, they don't understand this basic principle, that when you set your boundaries, you come out as a very confident person who loves himself or herself. So when you set these boundaries, when you know that you are taking out some creative time for yourself, some time for yourself wherein you can be creative, wherein you can give a lot of time to yourself, understand your relationships, then you actually can get into more fulfilling experiences with others. So, as the saying goes, you cannot pour, from an empty cup. So, understand that is the crust of the life and the crust of this session about setting up the boundaries. I will say it once again. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So, healthy boundaries is a way to fill your cup so that you can offer more joy to others and help the world to become the better place to be, isn't it? So, when you understand this, by setting up the boundaries, you are becoming more joyful, you are becoming more productive, your efficiencies are going up, your relationships are becoming more deep, and your life experiences, are becoming more fulfilling, more self uh, contented, you feel satisfaction inside, then you are on the right track. So, all my fellow women, all my friends, please understand this, that when we set up boundaries, we are making ourselves ready for a life which will be more enriching, more meaningful, more fulfilling, more successful. So, with that same note, I'm ending today's session on this setting up of boundaries. And I wish you all the very best to set up your boundaries. If you have any questions, please come back to me. I am available on all social media handles with the name Enduring Genesis. Okay, so my email ID is enduringgenesis@gmail.com. My Instagram handle is also available with the name Enduring Genesis. I'm also on the Facebook page with the name Enduring Genesis, and I know you already have my WhatsApp number. So you can get in touch with me anytime if you have any questions on setting up your boundaries, right? And also, the tomorrow's next session, I'm going to cover one more important topic for empowering of women. And that important topic, I can give an outline or the topic. I'm going to talk tomorrow about the knowledge and the wisdom, the difference between knowledge and wisdom, and how the most successful women on this planet, they use the knowledge and apply that knowledge which becomes a wisdom. And there are so many women on this planet, by using wisdom, they have led many other women in this world to become the better version of themselves. So, with that note, I'm now signing off from this session. I love you all, and I see that everyone is going to set up their own boundaries and going to be free birds. We women, we need to set up our boundaries. We need to sometimes come out of the boundaries which we have set in our mind, which are wired in our minds for years, through culture, through upbringing, through our experiences. So we please should know that we are the energy, we are the life for others. If we are the center of fertility. God has given us this body, the physical body of being feminine, and we are the center of fertility, creativity, energy, everything. So when we set up our boundaries in a clear cut way, we lead a purposeful life. So my with that note, I'm signing off from this session, and see you tomorrow for my session number 2, which will be on wisdom and knowledge. Love you all. Take care.